the future. It is a major running theme through one of Nintendo's biggest JRPG series. And after a surprise reveal back in February earlier this year, the third entry in the Xenoblade Chronicles series is no longer in our future. It's finally here, presented as a fusion between Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which sounds like a match made in heaven. And with a compelling story, engaging gameplay, incredible soundtrack, and some really interesting characters, it very well could be. But can it go above and beyond the series' lofty heights? Or does it fall short of their legacy? And can it really be the masterpiece fans have been hoping for? Let's find out in GameXplain's spoiler-light review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3's setting is heavy. A world in which everyone has a lifespan of just 10 years, and that time is spent in war between the kingdoms of Kevis and Agnes over a precious resource fueled by the lives of their vanquished enemies. It's a vicious cycle of life and death, where pain and tragedy are the norm, and existence is defined entirely by fighting and dying. And that's why one of the central themes is discovering what it means to be alive, to have hope towards a future that you can craft yourself, rather than by someone else's hands. You'll navigate this world as a party of 6. Noah, Mio, Lance, Senna, Uni, and Taion, split evenly between citizens of both kingdoms, after they reluctantly agree to work together, once being turned into Ouroboros during battle, making them the only people that could take on a mysterious group, Mobius, seemingly at the center of it all. And they'll need to cooperate with each other to unravel the truth of the world, and its endless war, in order to save it all. Or, that's the hope, anyway. While Noah and Mio take a clear spotlight as the protagonists, it's otherwise a largely ensemble cast, as every party member is treated respectfully, with notable spotlights and character development. My early concerns that Noah and the Kevesi half of the party might be favored over the other proved to be unfounded, as Mio, Senna, and Taion make some great early impressions, including how these two different groups may not be so dissimilar after all. Each character gets a dedicated side story, although while some are required to progress the story, others are treated as side quests, making it possible to miss them. But each one adds additional development to the main cast. Although they can occasionally interrupt the story's flow, the added characterization more than makes up for any hiccups in the pacing. There's a lot of depth to the characters and world. Whether it was the humorous yet natural character interactions of the party bonding closer together, or tragically sad moments that taught us so much more about the world of Ionios. The story of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is one that I fell in love with, and I was hooked from the beginning to the very end. The story picks up quickly compared to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, perhaps because you're thrown right into a conflict that the main cast is directly part of. And it not only engaged me much faster than its predecessors, but I also personally found the plot a lot more serious and compelling than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, putting it right up there alongside the original Xenoblade Chronicles. The story and world building in this game is incredible, and it captivated me almost instantly. The story only gets more intense from there, and it increased my investment in both the world and its characters. It's an emotionally moving story, filled with some really heavy moments. By the end of the game, I just wasn't ready to say goodbye to the cast of Ionios. Ionios is huge, offering multiple large open areas for players to explore. It's fun to venture through these vast regions, checking every nook and cranny for secrets while filling out the map. It's a touch disappointing though that the world of Ionios isn't a fully open world like Xenoblade Chronicles X, having obvious loading zones between each area. But these regions are far larger than anything from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2, and it's a decent middle ground between the two. These vast open areas open up even further as you venture deeper into the game, such as by leveling up enough to traverse sections that were too dangerous before, but also by unlocking new mechanics, such as climbing, rail riding, and more, which makes revisiting past areas to uncover new secrets fun and exciting. On top of the various collectibles littered across the lands, and a myriad of enemies populating each region, you'll find containers filled with collectibles, husks of dead soldiers to send off, landmarks and campsites to discover, side quests to begin, and more. And discovering these elements are pretty important, as not only do they get added to your map, but many of them also act as fast travel hotspots too, such as the landmarks and campsites, and also graves of any unique monsters you've defeated. It makes it incredibly easy to get where you need to later in the game, especially when taking breaks in the main story for side quests found in different regions. And side quests can be found all over Ionios, which always result in a reward, like EXP, gold, or an accessory. Although some advance the story, many aren't attached to any quest lines, and are just some simple tasks. There's also Collectopedia quests, which can be found in the quest menu, in which characters from all over Ionios desire specific collectible items, like different types of wood, food, or others. But unlike the fetch quests from previous games, or even JRPGs in general, that require you to painstakingly revisit every person and drop off their goods, you can now instantly send them off, even in bulk, and immediately claim your reward, all without having to leave the comfort of, well, wherever it is you may be standing. It's a nice quality of life feature that makes these side quests feel much less cumbersome. In fact, that goes for quests in general too, thanks to several quality of life improvements, like a navigational aura that leads the way for both the critical path and side quests, as well as points of interest markers on the map. Heck, if you're mid-fetch quest, you'll even find markers in the overworld that highlight the exact collectibles you need. It all makes it incredibly easy to keep up with various quests, and I rarely found myself confused or frustrated by not knowing what to do next. Furthermore, Affinity is back in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it functions most like the original game, where the more side quests you complete in any particular colony, the higher your ranking for that colony will be, thereby unlocking more quests and better rewards. And considering the sheer amount of colonies in this game, we see a lot more of this system compared to previous titles. There's also affinity between party members and heroes as well, but these are very different. Rather than having an affinity chart for the party like in the original Xenoblade Chronicles, or a visible line affecting battle performance like in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, this time around, the party affinity affects the class system, but we'll come back to that mechanic later. Unfortunately, there's no way to affect party affinity outside of battle. You can't gift a wet rat to someone to slightly raise their affinity, and there aren't heart-to-hearts between characters that let you raise their affinity, or give you special moments to see as a reward for increasing their affinity to a certain level. Frankly, it's a bit disappointing. Not that I need Senna to throw a wet rat at lands, but having the option to create small party member interactions like that would have been nice. Gifting items to each other, viewing heart-to-heart to see wholesome interactions between characters, it would have added a lot to make this lovable cast of characters even better. Now, that being said, heart-to-hearts aren't completely gone. Well, the idea behind them, at least. Instead of a heart-to-heart between two party members, the team can have discussions at a campsite or rest area, using discussion topics that you unlock by exploring the overworld, usually in populated areas. Discussions bring the whole team together to talk about specific topics, how a specific colony may be doing, the impact they may have as Ouroboros, or even some lighter topics as well. These usually involve all, if not most of the team, and they play out pretty similarly to heart-to-hearts of previous titles. If they don't connect to a side quest, they'll just give the party a small amount of EXP as a small reward for watching the characters chat. It may not have any ties to affinity, but it's good to see that there's still party interactions similar to heart-to-hearts, even if not quite as deep. Some side stories even start with a lengthy team discussion, so while some discussions can be lighter topics, others could be the start of a side quest, or even a larger side story. Campsites serve other purposes too, allowing you to save your game, wash clothes for a sparkly clean look in cutscenes, cook food for temporary gains, or craft gems that can be worn to improve a character's performance in battle, such as by raising their HP, block rate, critical hit rate, and more, which, along with cooking, is pretty useful. But for better or worse, the crafting process is a lot simpler overall than it used to be, and while it is more accessible, I do miss the minigame-like system from before, which added a surprisingly strategic and fun break from the action. You can train at campsites too by cashing in bonus EXP to easily increase the levels of your party members. I rarely trained myself, as I was already constantly overleveled for the critical path by playing the game and completing side quests. But it's certainly a good feature to help ensure players don't have to grind in order to reach the recommended level for different quests. Beyond gems, there are a ton of equipable accessories that you could buy from shops, earn from quests, or find out in the world that can affect stats, like agility, block rate, attack stats, and more. Although they don't show a visual change like in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, which I don't really miss, as you can change a character's outfit based on the class otherwise. In any case, these equipment are incredibly helpful, and it's important to keep up with them to get the best bonuses. Thankfully, your accessories and gems will change when you change classes, so it's easy to remember to swap them out when setting up each character's class, which can happen pretty regularly. Unfortunately, the loading times between all of these different areas and activities aren't exactly quick. In fact, they're rather long, way longer than it feels like they should be. Whether it's when traveling between areas, transitioning to or from cutscenes, and more. Sometimes the whole game loads up in just under 20 seconds, and sometimes it feels like a whole minute or longer passes. It's strangely inconsistent. Now, there's one part of the overworld we haven't touched on yet: battles, whether started by yourself or the enemy. But this time, you might also come across skirmishes between enemies, which offers you the choice of which side to assist, with different rewards for either one. These make for some interesting battles, and if you aren't ready for them, they can be difficult. They're interesting additions that not only make the world more exciting to traverse, it also just feels more realistic to encounter warring factions. The core battle gameplay will feel familiar to any Xenoblade Chronicles fan. Your team still consists of attackers, defenders, and healers that all attack automatically except when using arts that you've selected. But you can take control of any of them at any point for more direct control or to change their positioning, which can be important to ensure arts land with maximum effectiveness. But this time, your active party is greatly expanded, as all 6 characters are always out and are active participants in battle. Needless to say, there's a lot more happening at once this time around. I was worried battles might feel too crowded as a result, and if the game could even handle that much action happening at once. But thankfully, my concerns were unfounded, as not only do battles feel great by adding more options with more active characters, but they also make battles feel more grand. It's when we get into the specifics of these battle systems that it all becomes something far more unique and interesting. For one, you can now dodge just by clicking in the right stick, and it's very helpful, letting attackers evade an enemy's AoE attack, or healers get to a fallen ally faster. And I just liked how it kept battles feeling fast-paced. Character classes are divided into 2 different types, Kevesi and Agnian, and the one you prefer might depend on your favorite Xenoblade game. Kevesi classes play a bit closer to the cast of Xenoblade Chronicles 1, as their arts have a cooldown timer, whereas Agnian classes are closer to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, with arts that recharge by landing auto attacks. Even better, if you nail the timing of an art at the end of an auto attack, you'll cancel the end lag by moving straight into the art, and minimize the recharge on other Agnian arts too. Eventually, you even get the ability to cancel arts into each other, and boy is it satisfying, letting you string a ton of attacks together at once, kinda like a slower paced Warriors game. Earning different classes for your party members also allows you to equip Master Arts, which add more attacks for each character on top of their class arts. But these are always of the opposing class type, so playing a Kevesi class relying on a cooldown timer for your main arts means your Master Arts will be Agnian style, relying on auto-attacking instead. And before long, your party members will have a variety of different arts and attacks available to them, blending the 2 styles together in their movesets. And to drive that fusion point home even further, you can also use fusion arts. When a class art and a master art are both readily available to use, you can deploy both at the same time. These also have a chance to raise the interlink level, but we'll come back to that mechanic later. The core gameplay loop of battles is, quite frankly, surprisingly fast-paced, especially compared to previous entries in the series. Positioning around your enemy, playing your role correctly, dodging around the battlefield, using the right art to set up a combo, it's worth paying attention at all times. And unlike previous titles in the series, you can actually easily change characters at any time, be it in battle or the overworld. And there's plenty of reasons you might want to swap characters in battle. Maybe you want to combo the enemy with a full break, topple, launch, and smash. Or maybe your character fell in battle, and you don't want to wait for a healer to pick you back up. Or heck, maybe you just want to swap to a different class in the moment for a change of pace. While I wasn't swapping characters every single battle, It was definitely handy when facing strong, unique monsters or bosses. It's a feature that I'm sure will get a lot of use, and really helps encourage players to try every character and class. But whether you're changing characters at every opportunity, or just sticking to one or two the whole time, you'd be smart to make use of giving your team orders. You can have your team set up any combo, or specifically a burst or smash combo, as well as changing their positioning, focus on fusion arts, or even make them all target a specific enemy. These are incredibly helpful tactics, and I know I've lost a few battles because my team was spread out across multiple enemies rather than working together. Using these tactics can be essential, and the AI are pretty great at following up a combo once it's started. As long as their class has an art to continue a combo, trust me, they will. Now, whether classified as an attacker, defender, or healer, every class plays differently from each other. For example, while Mio and Lance are both defenders, Lance is more about blocking attacks, while Mio is about dodging them. By battling alongside other characters enough, their affinity will grow, and eventually, they'll be able to share classes with each other. And changing classes is very important, as not only is this how characters gain access to Master Arts, it also widens the pool of Master Arts they can equip as well. The game even drives this point home by alerting you when a character has hit the max rank, recommending that you change their class. And since a ton of heroes will eventually join your party of Ouroboros on their quest, there are a lot of classes to try out. And the thing is, almost all of them have been a ton of fun to play. It's exciting to test new strategies with different classes, and try a hero's class for the first time as soon as it's made available. The amount of options that open up with each new class keeps battles feeling fresh throughout its lengthy playtime, and it may just be one of my favorite parts of the entire game. In addition, you'll meet various heroes throughout your journey that essentially act as a 7th party member. Although you can't take control of them directly in battle, you can still choose their arts and they'll abide by the commands issued to the entire team, and it greatly increases the amount of options you have during battle. And not only do heroes have their own quests you can pursue, but every single one has a unique class too, that you can unlock for any member of the team to use, and there are a ton of them. The hero characters are a great addition, and add an interesting twist to the Xenoblade Chronicles series, and you'll never want to go back to just your main 6. The larger your active party, the better your strategies can be. Plus, each hero has a fun unique bonus in chain attacks. Chain attacks have been entirely revamped, and I love how they work now, as you can essentially keep the chain going by repeatedly filling the meter by playing well, and netting your party members additional turns. Not only are these moves super flashy, but consecutive chain attacks get insanely powerful, and landing one is incredibly satisfying. Especially when Ouroboros orders are unlocked, which are even more powerful and among the flashiest moves in the entire game. They are seriously fun to watch. Speaking of Ouroboros, the team can use their interlink ability at any point during battle, fusing with a partner to become their Ouroboros form, which is a much larger, much more powerful being, complete with their own unique skills and arts. But it can only be used for a short time before the pair are forced to separate and have to wait for a cooldown before fusing again. It's a neat system, and they definitely feel powerful, but it also feels a little underdeveloped too, lacking the combo starters and follow-ups to the other party members unless you reach Interlink level 3, and the time limitations definitely limit just how much you can use them. It ends up feeling just like another standard battle mechanic, rather than the game changer it's presented as in the story, although they can be quite useful for bosses. Even if some boss battles fought exclusively in Ouroboros forms would have been a nice addition. Between all of the battle mechanics and overworld features, there is a lot going on in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and even more mechanics open up later into the game that we can't even talk about yet for spoiler reasons, and they add even more nuance to the general gameplay. Exploring the vast open regions is enjoyable, especially with the new mechanics, rewards to find, and all of the quality of life improvements over the previous games. And the combat is the best it's ever been. It's fast-paced, reward strategizing, and best of all, the chain attacks are incredibly satisfying. Frankly, neither exploration or combat have ever felt this good in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. For once, I never felt overwhelmed by any systems or mechanics in the gameplay, and that's a first for this series. And that might partially be because of the excellent tutorials that ensured I understood every one of the game's mechanics. Now, there is still a lot of them, but they don't bog down the game nearly as much as they infamously did in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, as they become noticeably less frequent beyond Chapter 2, relying more on quick tips rather than full-on guided tours. Even better, you can revisit them at any time from the pause menu if you need some more practice or a refresher. The tutorials never felt overbearing, though they can be a bit awkward at times, such as when the game decides to randomly force you into a tutorial about something you've already figured out, or keep something locked away until you trigger the tutorial. Here's something that isn't a first for this series: breathtaking views. The series has always had some beautiful environments, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is no exception. These regions are gorgeous, with vistas aplenty for you to take in the sights from. The entire game looks remarkably better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, both artistically, but also technologically, with sharper visuals and better performance, even if there are still some moments where the game slows down, whether you play in docked or handheld forms. I also encountered a few glitches with the party member AI, where they would sometimes get stuck in the environment, though they will eventually catch up. It's nothing new for the series, but it's definitely more noticeable with so many party members if you keep moving. Despite these small hiccups, it's clear that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 may be the best looking game in the series. And that extends to the story-based cutscenes too, which look even better than the gameplay, featuring impressive animation, detailed character models, and voice acting. They're captivating. And the fact that there's now fully a proper lip sync for the English voice acting makes them even better.
But you totally messed up my settings.
That probably different frame.
There are some incredible scenes that I can't stop thinking about even now, though I can't show you most of them for spoiler reasons. Now, all of that being said, some of the smaller cutscenes aren't quite up to the same level, featuring awkward pauses, odd voice line readings, and stiff character movements.
Without my heroics, our combat unit would be right up the
Lance.
creek.
These are, suffice to say, about par the course for a Xenoblade Chronicles game. They rarely took away from the experience, but they are definitely noticeable next to the higher quality story cutscenes. But there is one particular side quest cutscene that felt outright unfinished, so skip ahead to the time on screen if you wish to avoid a small spoiler. Still here? Okay, so when the party first meets Valdi, the whole scenario already feels a bit strange, but the way it actually plays out?
Oh, crap.
Guys, get back!
Yeah, when I first encountered this, I was worried I'd start to find more and more cutscenes like this one. Mercifully, I did not. While there are other awkward moments littered throughout the game, the vast majority are what fans of the Xenoblade Chronicles series have come to expect, and even find charming, and I couldn't be more relieved. Unfortunately, outside of the cutscenes, some of the dialogue during gameplay can get a bit repetitive, such as with a lot of the post-battle lines. Lance calling himself the MVP,
And I was the MVP. You were all thinking it.
Senna getting praised for her performance in battle,
Unstoppable with you around, Senna.
I'm the girl with the gall.
Sometimes these clips even play after multiple battles in a row, so they can get tiring fast. You'll find repetitive voice lines in some menus as well, like when crafting gems,
Gem's done.
No bad job.
Looks good to me.
No bad job.
Gem's done.
No bad job.
or in the Interlinked Soul Tree.
You found power. You found power. You found power.
I just wish there was a bit more variety, maybe adding based on party affinity like the original Xenoblade Chronicles, or story progression. Finally, the Xenoblade Chronicles series is known for having great soundtracks, and this game does not disappoint. There are some really wonderful themes here in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, even incorporated into some of the story, since Noah and Mia are Offseers, using their flutes to send off the dead. My personal favorite is the chain attack theme. I cannot get enough of it, and sometimes I just sit in a chain attack for longer solely to listen to the incredible theme. Something about it just makes chain attacks even more satisfying. Xenoblade fans have been treated very nicely on the Nintendo Switch so far, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is no exception. Between an epic, moving story that left me no stranger to crying, a wonderful cast of well-written, relatable characters, a gameplay loop that kept me constantly coming back for more, incredibly satisfying chain attacks, a beautiful soundtrack just like its predecessors, and so much more to gush about, I can confidently say that I love Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it might just be the best of the entire series. Longtime fans are in for an absolutely wild ride, and with handy tutorials for the thrilling gameplay loop, newcomers may even find themselves enjoying it as well. Knowledge of the previous games isn't required, but it may add to your experience. I highly recommend that any fan of JRPGs check out this game, because right now, it is my personal favorite of the year. With that, thank you all so much for watching our review on Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's been a long time coming. Please let us know your thoughts down below. And be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for plenty more on Xenoblade Chronicles 3, including some guides upon the game's release. Until next time, farewell everyone.